Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to this new time lapse of EU4 in 1.24 Japan patch. It's been a while I didn't do a time lapse, mainly because of how YouTube is now. With the new rules for monetization, I figured it's better for me to stream more than try to do videos. But hey, if it works, then we'll be back here. So if you want more content on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. I need to get to 1,000 before we can monetize anything. So let's get there, guys. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to do this one, though, is because, hey, we got World Conqueror. Yes, after more than 6,000 hours in this game, I had never finished a World Conquest. Got close a few times, I just got bored. Finished this time for once. Now, it's not a clean one, it's not a one tag thingy. 15 more years and we could have done that by just breaking just attacking our vassals like this. But anyway, let's give you a time lapse of this thing here. Timeline. So we played as friends, obviously, as it's shown in the title. We started by reconquesting. First things first, a lot of people will just wait on the surrender of Maine. That's just a tip for any run for France. Don't wait on England to get the surrender of Maine. For those who don't know, for England, within the first year, we'll get an event where they either give Maine back to France or attacks France to complete the personal union. The problem with that is if you play France, the problem with France is that either you get only Maine and then you have a truce, or you get attacked by England. So if you want to take anything, you're not actually fighting for reconquest. So what I do is on the first month, right after the first month that you have to wait for, attack them with the reconquest CB. They technically will only have Portugal, sometimes one or two of the miners here, they don't matter. And you can technically take everything, just focus on Portugal, piece them out, and then take everything. It's not an easy war, but it's doable. Second tip, also in the first age you have an option in the age bonuses that you get transfer subject for half the cost. So any nation that has subjects, you can take their subjects for yourself as a vassal for half the cost. One of the great one for that is Norway. So Denmark has Norway. Norway is 175, 176, so if you cut that in half, it's about 80 war score. Really easy to do. Basically what we do is we reconquest our stuff. We try to fight Burgundy once to get the inheritance, didn't work, so then we diplo-vassalized. Well, we took Provence and Brittany, as you can see. Then we were stuck on aggressive expansion and no real target to go for. Savoy was sadly allied to Austria, so we diplo-vassalized some Irish people using their claims. We just united Ireland under our thumb. We're allied to Castile right now. And this is us. Leinster is our vassal. So right now we have all three of them as our vassals, and one of them, I think Tyrone, has a claim on Scotland, so we're attacking Scotland. After taking the land that we want from Scotland, which is basically almost everything, we'll make a claim on Norway and then use the transfer subject thing, as you can see right here, to go to Denmark, and then we'll turn Norway into our vassal. Now we don't see that. Also another small thing, we diplo-vassalize Navarre. The main thing that makes us expand fast at the beginning is diplomacy. France's diplomacy is super strong. As a tradition, they have +1 diplo rep, and as a first idea have +1 diplo slot. Couple that with their heavy strength, like their military strength, military size, and the fact that they are kingdom at the start, they have easy targets for diplo-vassalization. You can start with the Irish miners, and once Italy leaves the HRE, whatever is left as OPMs usually. The HRE miners are pretty hard to diplo-vassalize early because you have a -75 reasons because they are in the HRE, but eventually you can overcome that. At this point though, while we're fighting Denmark to get Norway, we will end up having a personal union in Castile. And Aragon will attack with it, and sadly they will call Austria, so we're fighting Aragon, Austria, and Denmark with his PUs. It was a rough one. We had mercenaries and loans, but eventually we'll be able to just white piece Aragon, because since we inherit the PU, we don't really need to fight for it, so we just white piece them while basically Denmark carpet sieged us. Then we kicked them back. This war lasted like 10 years, but we eventually got Norway. At that point we were super strong, and eventually we'll just decide to attack Austria. We attacked Burgundy a second time. What I did, since Burgundy never died, He died in like 1494 in the last war with them, and all they had at this point was this. So we inherited everything because this is all French land. What we did in every war is basically release their subjects. So I wanted to Austria get as little as possible. So basically the first war we released their SPUs, then the second one we released Hainaut from his mainland, as well as whatever he took from Lorraine. And yeah, after that, well, figured out why not go for England. So we'll get a good chunk of England, as you'll see in a second. So yeah, here we inherited Burgundy. Yeah, we attacked England, we gave him Pale here. Oh yeah, oh crap, what did I do? Sorry about that. I'll go back to the year, but what happened is basically Flanders was independent, but not in the HRA, and I was able to diplomatize them. I decided to do that, but in the process of doing it, like getting the alliance and the marriage and whatever, his ruler died, and he had no other marriage. And what happens with a nation that is extremely smaller than when it's time to decide a personal union, if the target nation is extremely smaller, it ends up being just an inheritance. So as you can see, I take land from England. In fact, Burgundy's gonna die again. Yeah, and now we'll take land from England. I just took this because it's French. It's easier. It's better than this for us. And then we work on Flanders, and then pop, we just inherit him. That was a little bonus here. So I think we'll start pushing on Italy. I think just take this. My idea was to get as close as Italy as possible through these so that I don't have a distance on those guys. Meanwhile, as you can see, Poland was getting wrecked. Didn't start yet, but eventually we'll get out of Europe because aggressive expansion was too high. Aragon was allied to Austria. There was a bit of a mess, so we just decided to go for Africa. So first we'll fight Portugal. In the first war with Portugal, we'll take his islands. And then from here, we'll just go for Africa. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing here, but we're not doing much. We're diplomatizing a lot of people. Because again, aggressive pension was too high, so I couldn't do much. Oh yeah, okay, this is what I did. I attacked Sweden. Took a chunk of out of Sweden and Denmark, and then Sweden got inherited by Denmark. Probably was annexing it, but as I took land from Sweden, it got smaller than what he had paid for. Took a chunk of England. Now here we went into Savoy here, and then we'll go straight to Genoa, I think. Just take the state here. The idea again was just to get access through this. Ferrara will live long because they were allied to the Ottomans, so I had a problem there. Okay, it's here that we'll soon get here. When we attack Portugal, we'll take this. We took Savoy here because it was in the state, so I figured I'll just take it. And now we're annexing our subject. Parma, there was Lucca, Parma, Mantua, we'll do Siena soon. Tried to finish England, but aggressive expansion will stop us from taking everything. That's going to be a problem. We tried to full annex them, but every time they would just get right over 100% overextension. War score value, I mean. Eventually we'll just kick them out, and they'll just resettle here. The two towns were pretty big. Okay, here what happened, what we took on Austria here. What happened is when the League started, we joined the Protestants. The run was a Protestant run. We joined the Protestant, trying to become emperor. What happened is basically I was the only one that was big enough to do anything in the Protestant League. Everything else was either a vassal or the small nations. So while I was busy piecing out the big guys so that I could focus on Austria, everyone else was just running about losing battles. So And since the League War CB is a show superiority for battles, the problem that happened when it was only me and Austria left, he had 40 for battles, 40 war score for battle, and the 25 ticking war score that I couldn't get back because there was no battles left to have. So, in the end, even though I had carpet siege Austria altogether and got all of I could, I was still losing the war goal, and I still had a minus 40 for battles, so we kept our war score 35. Sadly, to enforce the religion on the HRE, it takes 50. So I took land, which forced the Peace of Westphalia. We eventually, near the end, ended up Emperor anyways, because we just ate everybody except Brandenburg, who was our vassal. So he was voting for us as elector, since he was our vassal. But eventually, my ruler died, my emperor died without an heir, which makes you ineligible, so the empire just dismantled itself at that point. So now, since we have too much aggressive expansion here, we're just pushing hard in Africa, as you can see. So yeah, besides Castile, sadly, we're not going to inherit, well, and I guess Flanders you could count too, we didn't inherit anything. Just to show that you don't need to be super lucky. Granted, we're playing France, which is a big nation, but you don't need to be super lucky to do a world conquest. And I could have done much better, too. We diplo-vassalized Potigara. Well, eventually, sorry about the yawning. We'll diplo-vassalize this guy, we'll end up with 2 provinces, and we'll diplo-vassalize Muscat as well. As I said, we'll diplo-vassalize a bunch of Italians and about everything here. Now, eventually, soon enough, when I fully annex Portugal, what happens is that Portugal will have land here in Ainu and they will have Hawaii here. And it was out of range because I didn't take exploration. It was out of range and I wanted to diplo to full annex him because he had like everything that's blue here was basically him. It's just the timeline is weird, it doesn't change the colors for colonial nations. So I wanted to full annex him instead of having to take this myself, but I couldn't just take the provinces because it was out of range, so I just removed influence. At that point, I didn't have much left to diplo-vassalize, everybody hated me here. So I just removed influence during the war with Portugal, took the points, put them into exploration just to take the third idea to get the 50% colonial range, but also having exploration ideas gives you access to the navigator advisor, which gives you another 20%, which was enough to full annex Portugal. And then after that, I just removed the Gadia group and bought back influence. Eventually, at some point, once in 1685, when you get imperialism, you don't really need influence anymore. And in the second age, in the last age, you don't need exploration at all because you can core anything, so you don't need range. So now we're just pushing hard here. We smacked a bit of Bohemia. Bohemia was huge and allied to the Ottomans, and the reason why we never pushed on these guys, because we have a border in Russia, for a while they were allied together. Eventually I managed to break it because Russia was allied to a small guy, the Teutons I think, I don't remember who exactly. And in the peace with Russia I broke the alliance, but then the Ottomans allied Ming, and eventually Russia ended up being a tributary of Ming, so I had no freaking way to attack besides fighting Ming. Eventually I broke the alliance between the Ottomans and Ming. Also Bohemia was allied to the Ottomans. Again, I broke that by proxy. So whenever someone is allied to someone too big for you, try to fight their proxy. The Ottomans were allied to Ferrara, so I just attacked Ferrara. And don't be afraid to white piece someone. Yeah, Tunis was our vassal. Diplo-vassalized Tunis because, I don't know if you noticed, but they ended up being one province. So we managed to diplo-vassalize them there. And then return cores from Portugal and eventually from Aragon. Aragon, as you might have seen, was pretty huge here. So now we're just wrapping up Europe. A lot of people says, well, Conquest, leave Europe for the end. I don't agree. Main reason in money. Well, I made way too much money in this run, but being able to not care about money doesn't only help for loans and not having to take mercenaries, especially now with professionalism, but it mainly helps with events because you can always take the option that costs money and you don't give a crap about it. Yeah, I don't know where we're pushing here at this point. We took this from Portugal. No, yeah, we took it from Portugal, but it came back. Yeah, we're just pushing on Europe. We're gonna kick this out from Bohemia. These guys are my vassals. We've diplo-vassalized again. Diplo-vassalized Hungary, who has three provinces left. We reconquested on Bohemia. Eventually, we'll do the same on the Ottomans. Same thing with Lithuania. They were too tiny here. We reconquested on the Teutons as well as on Bohemia. The one in order here, the same thing. Brandenburg, the same thing. They had two provinces left. We diplo-vassalized them and they reconquested. We gave them some other land too. Diplo-vassalized Oldenburg, but this guy will just disappear on its own eventually. And we're finished with West Africa now. We just jumped on Congo in one war. So France for War Conquest has one downside: it doesn't have core creation cost in its ideas. The cost itself is not that relevant with absolutism, but the problem is that core and cost reduction, the idea itself, or in administration, not anything that reduces core creation, but the name core creation cost specifically also reduces core creation speed, which speeds things up a lot, especially in the end when you end up having 3 or 4 wars at the same time, sitting on wars, just waiting for cores to come in so that you can core something else. It helps a lot. So this is the downside of France. You don't have that except for admin ideas. There's 3 big advantages. First, it's well placed to attack the other colonizers, so you don't have much colonial land to go for. To work on, because you can attack England, attack Castile, attack Portugal pretty quickly. Second, their diplomacy. As I explained, diplo-vassalize a lot of people. You would think that Austria has a better position because they have more diplo reputation. First, they have one more in the national ideas, but second, they also have a permanent event. It gives us another +1. So basically, Austria altogether, compared to France, has 2 more diplo rep. You'd think that it's better. The problem with Austria is being emperor forces them to stay a duchy, a kingdom, if they end up inheriting a personal union from a... Sorry, that's my cat. From an elector. But still, being an emperor is in total +30 reasons to accept the diplo-vaccination from a duchy, which everything here is a duchy except the electors if they grow big enough. So that's the other thing. The third thing is how easy it is to get absolutism with France, because of you have a decision called l'état c'est moi if you have a ruler that has 5 administrative power in 1600. You get a permanent +0.5 absolutism yearly. It doesn't seem like much. In the Third Age, in the Age of Absolutism, it's not that much because you get +1 from age bonuses, but you lose that in the Age of Revolutions. France keeps that bonus, the 0.5 yearly. Doesn't seem that much, but coupled with Court and Country, which gives you a max absolutism over 100, which gives you a buffer not to lose the efficiency. Having a yearly tick lets you basically increase autonomy sometimes when you need to or when you want to. Mainly I used it for islands. So when you take an island and it ends up with some revolt risk, you don't want rebels to spawn on the island because then you have to use your ships. It's annoying. So just increased autonomy reduces your absolutism from by maybe 1 or 2. It's 1 per 10 dev. It doesn't drop you under 100, and then after a year or 2 you get it back. So that's the other advantage. Yeah, so now we start pushing on Russia. At this point, Russia becomes, when I took this, Ming was attacking for tributary, so that's why I went in to take some land. Then they won the war, so Russia is a tributary at this point. We pushed on the Ottomans once, and then I'll leave the rest here until the end of the game. Everything else in the Ottomans is at the end of the game. I don't know why I pushed here, actually. I don't remember what I was thinking. Whatever. Here we'll pretty much stop here, but as you can see, we have here this with this here, and it's hard to see the borders on Korea, but we don't have anything here yet. But we're attacking Japan at this point. Here we go. We took this that Japan had. Then Korea was fighting Ming to become free. So we attack Korea. So this is what we took. And then we'll attack Ming straight away. At this point, when we took all this, because while fighting Ming, that's the way you fight Ming usually. Unless you're super strong, the way to fight Ming is you attack Ming straight directly first. And right before you finish the war with Ming, before piecing out Ming, you attack one of its tributary that you want to attack. Because you're already at war with Ming, Ming won't be able to defend the tributary. And the overloaded tributary can only defend its tributary upon being declared war on. So it can't join later on. It's not alliance. So, right before finishing the war with Ming, attack a tributary, then peace out Ming, then you can fight a tributary on your own, even if it's a tributary right now. So with this, since this is connecting everything by land, all of this is counting towards reducing the mandate of Ming. So right now, I think he was losing 1.6 a month. So after 3-4 years, it was at 0. So we're starting to get rebels. And I was just going to start going crazy because, yeah, the timer was getting on us. So I'll just leave it here. Eventually, I realized I wouldn't be able to one tag, so I just started vassalizing everything. That's another thing. We'll become revolutionary. We are revolutionary friends at this point. It's super easy as friends. The revolutionary disaster for France is special because, you know, history. So with France, all you have to do is have negative prestige to get it going. And nothing else matters. It's gonna make it tick faster, but you can just do it on prestige. So just drop prestige on your subjects by bracketing ruler until you have negative prestige. Whenever it gets positive, do it again. It's gonna tick by 1 a year, by 1 a month. Eventually, after 5 years, you get your disaster. Just make sure that you don't have any force around your capital. I didn't need them anymore because a stack will spawn close to your capital, but they will go for forts, and you don't want them to get a fort because if they get a fort, they start pushing for demands. Those that don't know how to become the revolutionary target, it's you need your capital to fall to revolutionary rebels during the revolutionary disaster. And if your capital is in Europe and the capital falls after a month, you'll get an event to become the target. You do not want to accept the demands or to be forced to accept the demands of the rebels, because that will only turn you into a constitutional republic. So yeah, but if you lose a fort, then the rebels will start ticking towards enforcing demands. So you don't want them to take a fort, but there's always a stack of revolutionaries when this disaster starts that spawns close to your capital. The downside, it's easy to start the French Revolution, but it's hard to finish. The other revolutionary disaster, once you get the target, the disaster ends. When you're France, you either need to have 3 stability. Seriously? Sorry about that, my cat. My god. Production quality here. I'm sorry. So, you need to either have 3 stability and no rebels owning any province, or if you are the target of the revolution by getting the event, it will end when you get the Napoleon Bonaparte event. And to get that event, you need, eventually you'll get one of 2 events. One is the directory. If you get the directory and you pick it, you'll get the directory and the directory modifier, which is a bad modifier for a year. After a year, the event for Napoleon will appear. When you take Napoleon, the disaster ends. The other option is the execution of King Louis. If you decide to execute, a few months after, the event for Napoleon will trigger. So we had Napoleon, but he spawned at 559 years old. So he died after a few years. That was bad, but whatever. So here what we did, the reason I took this, by the way, is because it looks weird. Because you cannot create client states in overseas land. So for it to not be overseas, I had to connect it to my capital. So by taking this, I'm basically connected by land through Scandinavia, because these are straits. So with this, as you can see, all those 5 nations are my only nations. And now we take this. And now it's just going faster and faster. At this point, I'm just vassalizing everything. And yeah, we will be done by 1806, I think, but I will end the run at 1816. I wanted to core everything just for the fun, and I core everything I had. And also, I'll show you when I stop the timeline, but basically we hit the cap of money, which is 1 million. I was close, I figured I'd do it. I was making at the end 1.4k a month. It's a bit stupid. But yeah, well, it's a world conquest. So you can technically do more if I didn't have the client states, but whatever. So in the end, there was the last two nations were Persia and the Ottomans. Persia at this size was small enough to vassalize. That's the main advantage of being the revolutionary target. You lose the imperialism CB, but you get spread revolution, which is even better. Everything is 50% cost, and you have a 50% reduction on unjustified demand. So when you piece out, when you separate piece, everything is free on the main target, but when you separate piece, you pay 50% of the unjustified demand cost. If you have influence on top of it, which we had, it makes it 100%. There's no cap on it, so basically everything's free even on secondary targets. That makes it pretty easy. And Persia was 175 something war score here, but cut in half, small enough to vassalize. They were all disloyal, but it's not like they were going to declare any independence with my 1.4k regiments. And as this disappear, we're done here. We have the achievement, it's over, the world conquest is over. As I said, we're just going for a few more years, but nothing's gonna happen. And here we are, we finished here. As I said, we hit the 1 million. As you can see, we didn't convert anything. That's the other big advantage of France, because with this idea, which is +2 tolerance of heretics and heathens on top of humanist ideas, you need to make sure what decision you take here, but basically you have full tolerance across the board, so everything's is valued 100%. On top of all the humanist ideas, you don't get rebels really. The only times I would get rebels is when I would take over 100 overextension and decide to core it. So yeah, world conquest, guys. We also did narcissism, which is just a silly one. Finally, after 6.3 thousand hours, we finally got the world conquest. As France, the nation I played the most. Next will probably be True Fig. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you're enjoying the content, and if you're not too annoyed by my cat scratching and telling us that she's taking a dump, don't forget to follow, to drop us a sub, subscribe to the channel, and we'll come up with more content for you guys on that. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.